I will call to order the meeting of the Fitchburg Board of Public Works for July 22nd, 2021. We have a full quorum. All board members are in attendance tonight. As City Engineer Bill Balke and Transportation Engineer Andrew McFadden. Public appearances for non-agenda items. Kathy and Jerry Neitzel. And they are here. Bill, see if we have any update on our runoff. You know, neighbor. We promised them about a month from now we'd have that ready. So will you have something in your report about that?
Essentially what we've got is that the city attorney and the stormwater engineer are looking into the nuances of that right now. I don't have the report with me, but we're hoping to get something ready for the next week, next Monday. That's when our next meeting is.
Okay, so you have, I understand, right, you have something drafted and it's being looked at by legal and stormwater.
Yep.
Okay. When that comes out next Monday, would it be all right after they've gone through? We have a meeting next Monday also, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying to minimize Jerry and Kathy. You heard the status, and so I don't have much of an update for you. I'm sorry to brought
So
you here.
8-2?
8-2, and we'll see. It'll be at 5:30, I believe, on 8-2. Does that sound right? All right. I know that takes. We think we have stuff, and then there's nuances if we don't. So they are looking through that. So
Can we put it as an agenda item, just as a discussion? And then they would know if they see it on the agenda that we are ready, and if it's not ready, it wouldn't be. I don't know if that's possible. It doesn't have to be an action item, you can just say discussion
agenda
of.
item, yeah.
And then if they see it, can look on the agenda and see it, then they'll know we're ready. If it's not there, they'll know we're not ready.
Okay. And the agenda will be posted on Friday.
Okay.
All right. So thank you for coming. Sorry to
Yeah.
the result, but we are working on it. Did you have any?
If there's anything else on the agenda that
For public, we're in the public comments, so if you have anything else.
And Bill, is the city attorney looking at the language in ordinances, or what component are they looking at?
They're looking at the Wisconsin statutes.
Okay.
Drainage law.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the other in attendance are here for agenda items tonight, so we'll call them at the appropriate time. All right, so that moves us on to agenda item 3, approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the June 21st, 2021 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Moved
I'll
by
second
Wheeler,
it.
second by Mr. Wilborn. Do we have any questions, corrections, changes? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of approval of the June 21st Board of Public Works meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, review item 4A, review of utility May P-card purchases and June checks. I will open this up to board members for, I'll just let you guys, I'm paging down myself here.
I had one question, and it was on, I guess it's checks. Do we want to do P-cards first?
It doesn't matter, Kim.
Okay. I don't know what RNOW Inc. is, but it's the second to the bottom one on page 19 of our packet. Schwarzy A9 Monsoon Demo, $243,000.
Yeah, we purchased a monsoon.
Yeah, and you bought an expensive one too. I couldn't make hydrotherapy out of
Yeah,
that.
that's our new street sweeper that we purchased.
The new streets.
And it's a demo
Monsoon,
model,
okay.
and we saved about $40,000 with that.
Okay. What is RNOW? Is that the name of the company? Who you paid it out to? Is that?
Must be.
Oh, okay. Usually I can, they make sense, but now it didn't make sense to me. Okay. So you didn't purchase a monsoon at all?
No.
That's the brand name of the
Street
sweeper.
Okay.
It's the monsoon. Okay. All right, other questions?
I don't have any questions about the purchases, but I was hoping you could kind of review the stormwater or the sanitary and water usage costs. Because this is great information, but just a little context around it would be great.
Is that the B
That
item
would
you're
be the
talking
B,
about?
yep.
Okay.
I didn't have any questions. Mr. Wilborn, Mr. Wheeler?
Sorry.
No.
Okay, let's move on to B then.
Thank you.
And I agree with Michael. I found this very concise and a lot of information in a small, in one chart here. So, Bill, would you care to comment on it, or trends, or what you see? It's fairly esoteric, you know, what's going on. We see increases over time.
Yeah, essentially what we have, we charted the sewer usage and the water usage over time, the past 10 years. And it trends pretty steady through this. And so that means that we've got, you know, a pretty good handle on our water usage, even though we've had a lot of development over time. That we're implementing a lot of conservation conservancy matter issues for this that kept the water usage down from year to year to year. So we did have a big spike last year, but we kind of feel that it's because of the development finally catching up to our usage. But as far as costs go over time, we did plot that out as well. The costs have been increasing from year to year. But the daily flow has been pretty steady. So it's just kind of gives you a pretty good idea. You can see that in the wet years, there's not as much water usage. So then the sewage goes down as well. So we're just trending over time.
So the context of this is the daily flow gallons per day, I'm assuming, and then is this the sum of all of Fitchburg residents, businesses? Okay.
Yep.
So basically, the cost went from $445 up to $781.
Over a 10-year,
Yeah.
over a 10-year period, so
Million
it's not doubling, but.
Close to.
Yes. And so the question, Bill, I have, I'm sorry to throw you under this bus. You've been here involved with this, or you've been involved, but what are the drivers from Madison Met? You know, I know the phosphorus is one. Do you have a feel for what what's driving their cost increases?
I didn't dive into the actual details of the different treatment rates. There's 5 or 6 different areas that they sample for, and there's a cost associated with treating those pollutants, and each one has a different rate. So depending on the concentration that they pull from the sample every year, that's why some of them might be, or every quarter, some of them might be a little bit higher, because, you know, some of the flows might have a big concentration of phosphorus, other ones might have a big concentration of nitrogen, or, you know, things like that. So, yeah, it's just a composite of what the rates are, but there's individual rates that make up that composite rate.
Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
So what are the sources of the phosphorus and the nitrates that it goes up and down?
People.
Fertilizer?
Fertilizer.
Basic
There-
fertilizer.
We don't have a lot of infiltration that gets into our pipes. Otherwise, you would see a big spike, you know, during the rainfall events. So, you know, having that pretty steady and matching our water trends is pretty good. But it's just, yeah, people, industry that would have those concentrations.
So did they set their rates on a yearly basis? I mean, I see it went down several years, from 16 to 17, went down quite a bit, and then, you know, has been jumped up ever since 17.
Yeah, they do set the rates, but, you know, in that particular blended rate, there might have been less of a high cost pollutant that they were treating. So it does fluctuate within there.
Bill, you know, the difference between the pumpage and the sanitary usage, you know, one cause is people watering gardens and lawns and like that. Some of it is, I don't know if we fill our skating rinks. But also goes to show, you know, we don't have a large, what we feel would be leakage in our system, where we're not losing water. If you look at, for instance, 2012, I know that was a very dry year, a very hot and dry year, 2012, 7%. Last year, 2020, I don't recall it being particularly hot. Do you have a sense, you know, what would have driven that higher pumpage versus the, did we have fires we had to, you know, do you have any idea? You know, that's the highest differential we've had.
Not exactly sure. We did not include second water meters in here for irrigation. So
Okay.
these are just potable water usage
Okay.
that people have. It could be, you know, more sprinkling. I couldn't tell for sure.
Okay.
But it could be just that finally, you know, everything caught up to Conservancy, and now you're seeing the true trend.
Okay. You're not thinking that we have leaks, you know, a large amount of leaks that we're not taking into account. So how would you, let me ask you this. Say we started having leakages, you know, in our system. Besides the street eroding and caving in, how do we even know that? Is it low pressure in some areas? How do you go about diagnosing that?
Usually it's a call from a resident. You know, they've got, you know, their sump pumps are running. You will see the leakage come right out of the ground.
Okay.
That's primarily how we
All
find
right.
them.
Okay.
We've got a really good system. Our unaccounted for water, well, was accounted for, but the non-revenue water last year was around 6%, so it's a pretty tight system.
Okay.
And for the, we will say thousands watching at home, what sort of efforts can everybody at home take to kind of help maybe conserve this or keep phosphates out of the system and all that other good stuff?
You know, anytime that you want to reduce your fertilizers, you know, in the neighborhoods, that's a way to do that. I'm not sure, you know. You can change your diet. I don't know if that would help, but
If you can keep your leaves out of the street.
yes.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Rains in the fall. Bill, I don't know how our electric rates are set. Do we have like time of day usage? You know, so if we're pumping a lot, you know, late in the afternoon, are we paying more, or is it you know, fixed with MG&E? You know, sometimes, you know, electric are. And do you know if we're flat, just straight usage, so much per kilowatt hour?
I think it is.
Okay.
I'll have to check with Tracy on that to see if we got time of day.
The people using that different times really wouldn't offset any cost for us. Well, thank you. This is very valuable to have. I had not been trending this very closely, and it gives me a good snapshot of what we have here. Any other questions? Appreciate the staff putting this together and presenting it in the package. I'm going to stop here quick. We have another citizen, William O'Brien here. Were you here for non-agenda item?
I couldn't get into the building.
Okay.
I was running around.
Are you here for a non-agenda item?
I am. I just like
All
to
right.
talk for 3 minutes.
Come on up.
Thanks.
We'll
Thanks, Dave.
go out of order here a little bit. Hopefully the parliamentarian won't come after me.
I mean, the door was locked.
I ended up at the police station.
Voluntarily.
First time by choice. So I live on South Side Road, right? It's getting ripped up and redone. So I just have 2 things I'd like to address. Firstly, the road, and I'm very interested in trying to add some sort of a shoulder to that road, mostly because I'm concerned about people in that neighborhood. I've been there a long time, and the road 40 years ago, traffic was a lot less substantial, and now it's up and down all day. And so I think a shoulder is very applicable. I asked somebody to ask you about different prices. Sound like double the price to put a shoulder on it now, and I wonder how much more it would cost to do it as a standalone later. I understand there's pros and cons there. So my second and third idea would be a stop sign at South Sayin and Irish, and then lowering the speed limit to 25 south of Irish. It really is a residential neighborhood, and I think that may be one easy, cheap way to address our children's safety concerns on that road. And then I'd also like to see a bike path running north from Irish Lane to connect Greenfield, the only neighborhood I know of that doesn't have a bike lane connecting it to Fitchburg proper. That's one. Now, the other thing is the financing of the water main. I have some issues with. It turns out back in 1981, the residents on South Sayin Road that were not connected to the well and pipe at that time had a special assessment placed on them. So South Sayin Road was assessed for a project that they never received any benefit from. Now, this project that's going on now is going to, we talk about benefits, bring fire safety, not only to the people being assessed on South Sayin Road, but those higher pressures are going to be in Greenfield, and so they've got increased fire protection. They don't look like they're getting a special assessment at this point. The other thing is the nitrates. I don't know if you were just talking about nitrates in Greenfield a second ago, but in talking to Tracy for a couple hours, it looks like Curry Court's going to get capped, and Greenfield will get pumped more, which will help lower the nitrate levels. So Greenfield's getting a benefit there as well. And then, as you know, most of the people that signed the petition, most of the people being affected by the South Sayin main line going in don't want to connect to it. They're happy with their water. They don't want chlorine and fluorine. And yet they're being specially assessed for this water line that's going to improve the water quality in Greenfield. So I think it may be smart to consider bringing in another group. Sorry to throw you under the bus, Greenfield, but I could see a water assessment. Back in '81, it was a water system assessment we received. Did you ever hear from Tracy or look at any of those assessments that happened in '81?
She did find some.
Yeah. So I think maybe we helped them in '81. Maybe they can help us now. And with that, yeah, I think I'm good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Bill. Bill, hang on one second. I'll just comment on a couple. I went out, Bill walked me down his property and looked at some of these things, and when he talked about the 25, Andrew and Bill, you have to educate me, what's the classification of that road, south of Irish? Is it, what do we call it right now? Is it
I think
rural?
it's a rural collector.
Rural collector, okay. So when I look at that road and the density of the homes, it's very similar to Williamsburg Way, the neighborhood I live on, based on number of houses along there, and we have a sidewalk and a wider road, everything, and we're 25. So I believe that we should study that, seriously study that, and the stop sign down there, I believe that would slow traffic somewhat, but again, I need to have our staff has to look at that and evaluate it. There's warrants for stop signs and things like that, and we want to make sure those are met. So those two, we're going to look at those very seriously. Bill also pointed out some options for the bike trail. Well, I've talked to the bike ped, but north of Irish Lane on the would that be the west side, it's really wide open for a bike path there. There's enough space, the houses, there are trees, their setbacks, easily be accomplished. South of there, not really an option, without taking people's yards. So one thing Bill suggested is, he said the train track used to have, it had 2 lanes, or it had 2 tracks, and I don't know if, the city was involved with that one time, if that extra right of way, if we could put a bike lane on that, then that solves the problem. It gets you up to Irish Lane and then onto another path. So I'd at least like to investigate that, whether we could put one along that rail. We'd probably have to have a fence separating it from the rail, and there would be places where people would have to get on it. But I think those are some options we should consider. So that's all. Thanks, Bill.
Hey, thank Dave.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So when you say a stop sign at Irish and Sahin, you mean to make that 4-way?
Yes.
Okay, Thanks.
I have another question too. East Annandale, east south of Irish, we're north of Irish. Ever since they put it down to 35, I don't think there's any vehicles that obey that. They go flying by there so fast, both ways.
Yeah, we've had a lot of complaints from neighbors
We would
out there.
offer to allow PD to park in our driveway. We're right across from Stoneman's.
Yeah.
I go to back in the driveway with my trailer, and they come flying over the hill, just about hit it, and I got 4 ways on it.
Yeah,
We're over doing more than 35.
yeah, it's a,
And they go down in the ditch to go around me too.
Jim can attest, it's Jim's district, and we're, probably a week doesn't go by when we aren't having complaints from residents, so we're aware of that, and it certainly is on our radar.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's not enough shoulder for an officer to sit on that area to monitor.
In fact, I had a meeting with Andrew and Lieutenant Hartwick, and we were talking about speed issues across all of Fitchburg, so
Yeah.
we'll definitely include that.
Oh, there's an issue here. And with the racing company down the road.
Thanks, Jim.
Take care.
All right, back to the agenda. Moves us to agenda item 5, report from Department Head and City Engineer, Mr. Bill Balke.
All right. Fish Hatchery Road. Let's start with that, with a little project up there.
A little.
Starting tomorrow morning, they're going to be closing down Cahill, Maine, and Caddis Bend will stay open, and High Ridge will stay open. While they do the construction at Cahill, Maine, they'll be having that closed down for about 10 days. And then we're going to flip the two. We're going to open up Cahill, Maine, and then close down High Ridge and do the construction there. So during that time, just be aware that, traffic is going to be congested in that area. I know that Andrew's been working pretty hard with the traffic team to try to balance out the traffic needs in that area, keeping the traffic moving on Fish Hatchery Road while still letting traffic out at Caddis Bend. So it's a balancing act. I know he's made some changes up there. We had some issues with the traffic signals for a while where it wasn't detecting the cars. So it was making its own decision not to turn lights on, and it kind of balled things up a little bit. But I think we're pretty close to getting that fixed now. Okay. Yeah, if you go take a drive up there, you'll see that the new pedestrian bridge up there across Nine Springs Creek has been set. They're digging out for the wall at the Pines Apartments, putting in some storm sewer north of McKee. They plan on paving the McKee intersection later this week, next week. And then, let's see what else we got going on. Streetlights have been going in. It's just busy up there.
Have there been any reported accidents in that area? I haven't
I haven't
noticed any.
I haven't been monitoring that. I don't know if Andrew's been.
I looked at this morning, there have been a few, for example, I know one of the signal.
A DNR permit. We're still waiting on that from the DNR so we can get started on it, but the contractor's mobilized. He's put some equipment out there. They're going to be doing some prep work in anticipation of starting construction. The barricades went up yesterday. We got directional signage up there to Stoneman's, so we're trying to keep them in business while they're while the construction is going on. You can still access the site. It'll be congested, but there may be some construction traffic that you have to wait for a little bit. But you can get in from either end at this point. So you can either come in from Irish, which would be the preferred route once the construction starts, or you can come in from Lacey, and you might have to wait a little bit. So that project, once it gets going, we're looking at a mid-September completion for the water main, and then we'll move right into the resurfacing part of the project, and then that should get wrapped up by the end of October. Subdivision improvements around the city, we've got Stone and Prairie is looking for their acceptance within the next couple council meetings. So they'll be looking to get their lots going, Crescent Crossing as well. Tonight you'll see one for Commerce Park Drive being accepted, and also Terra Vesta. So got lots of construction still going on in the city. We're looking at development plats down at Payne and Dolan over on Lacey Road to, it would be south of Lacey, just to the east of Fitchburg Road. They'll be coming in with a plat to Plan Commission real soon. So, and then Fitchburg Townhomes over at the intersection of, that would be Notre Dame and Lacey Road. They're looking to put in, I think it's 47 townhome apartments in that area, construct Notre Dame to the south. So we're looking to get them started within the next couple of months there too.
Thank you, Bill. Board members, questions for Bill? I had one, Bill. Are we going through wetlands that we need to permit from the DNR?
Nope, it's just a standard water extension permit.
It is, okay. I wasn't aware of that one.
Mhm.
Thank you, Bill.
Mhm.
Now you stay on top of it all. Next, we'll move to our agenda items. First one, agenda item 6A, Resolution R 12721. A resolution to accept a change order to the Curry Court and Old Indian Trail study. Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Moved by Abdel, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Gronetsky. So in this one, the study looked at 3 options and found none of them really had any effect. Now we're back to asking for a change order to study the pumped option to move the water. Am I correct, Bill?
That's correct.
All right.
We're just looking for a decision whether or not to explore that option. As you'd mentioned, the 3 options that we did look at, you know, with grading swales, putting in pipes, really didn't lower the flooding effect that much. So we were looking at an option that would lower the groundwater table somewhat for this. And based on the neighborhood feedback that we had, there's some opposition to doing this option from expense, maintenance, things like that. And just want to know if we need to consider it or not.
So what happens if you don't consider it?
And then we'll look at the other remaining options that would lower the flood elevations 4 inches to a foot in some areas. It won't totally get rid of the problem, but it
So
would
from your
reduce it
public
somewhat.
input, where the neighbors are opposed to the pumping option?
Yes.
Okay.
Noise?
I wasn't at the meeting,
Okay.
so I don't know the specifics of it. I just know that there is opposition regarding to maintenance and the cost of it.
Would this be a special assessment if you went that option?
There would be an area assessment.
All right. All right, I'm with you. Well, the board members, the question I'd ask, you know, you were doing, you know, we say, all right, we don't want to go that option, which personally I'm not in favor of. There will be residents that come in and accuse us of negligence, you know, or not caring, and that's not the case. But I agree with Bill. I don't think Bill has an opinion one way or the other. He wants to do what's best, you know, to resolve the problem. But if they don't want a pumped solution, So like, we tell them, well, you're gonna have to be willing to accept, you know, maybe less than you hope for. Where are we moving the water to? Bill?
I think we'd be moving it south to Murphy Creek.
Okay,
There were two options, right, that one of them was Murphy Creek.
Murphy
one of
and
them was,
Swan Creek.
Yeah, to Swan
Yeah.
Creek.
So, but this is just asking for a contract change order to study the pumping option, is that
Correct.
correct?
Yes,
And it's about $8,500.
correct.
And then that would give you information as to how much the pumping would reduce the flooding and what the costs are?
Correct.
To me, it's worth $8,000 to
Well-
find that out and let the people make a decision, you know, based on full information rather than, are you gonna get, you know, 4 inches or 6 inches, or are you gonna get 2 feet, and what is the cost difference? And then, right now, you know, it's sort of hard to make a decision without the full information, in my opinion, so I guess I would be in favor of having them study this for $8,500.
Convince me, change my mind.
I mean, it doesn't
I
say
like
they
to
have
deal-
to
I
do
like to
it.
deal- I like to deal with, yeah, I like
Yeah.
to see, deal with knowns.
Yeah,
These are
right.
the knowns.
If they have more information, you know, that, I think that would help them make a more educated decision.
Bill, would that study quantify the cost of that pumping option also? Or do you know that
Yes.
already? Okay. That'd
As
be
far as the
perfect.
maintenance and
Yeah, that'd be-
ongoing costs, yes.
Okay,
So I think that would be beneficial, in my opinion.
so with the study here, that would just be part of our, funded by part of our stormwater rates?
Correct.
Okay. Dave, opinion one way or the other?
No,
Jim?
no.
Comments?
Questions?
My ongoing concern is always tossing more stuff at that stormwater rate, or the stormwater fund.
I share your
If it's,
concern.
if it's a viable option, I say, you know, I would say explore it. If it's already kind of a non-starter, we're just trying to find out if it's worth it. I don't know that'd be worth it to do this, and we can figure out other ways to use that $8,500 out of the stormwater fund.
So back to that, Kim. If they say they don't want it right now, I'll come back to that here. I'm kind of vacillating on the issue. That if we heard that they, you know, even if we pointed out that it would make things better there, they don't want it. Let's call the vote.
Can I ask one
Go
other
ahead,
question?
Michael.
Who is they?
Yeah, was it one resident, was it two? Do you have any sense of that? No, I know you weren't at the meeting, Bill.
I remember one, and then another one chimed in and said the same thing, so it was at least 2 that were at the meeting. I think there was about a half a dozen people that came to the meeting that voiced their concerns, and I'll have to look back at that meeting. I think it was recorded.
Do they, I mean, are they, council is the one who ultimately, this board and council are ultimately the ones that approve these sort of matters, correct?
Correct.
So there's a group of residents who say they don't want a pumping option. We're basically saying we didn't look at this, but we're gonna add this on to our contract with the consultant to find out if it's going to be a viable option. And ultimately, council and this board are gonna kinda take a look at what the studies say and what the recommendation from staff is going to be and proceed.
Correct.
Correct, okay. And I don't recall that we've heard anybody from the public speak on this matter at this board yet. I'm not recalling anybody.
I don't
Speaking
recall
on this.
anybody either.
Bill, you said the meeting was recorded?
Yeah, we had a public meeting at least a month ago, and I think it was recorded.
What was it titled? I can go back and look it up.
Probably Curry Court.
Just Curry
something.
Court?
Yeah,
Okay.
if we
Was
could
Mark-
put it into Fact TV, and I'm sure Curry Court would pop up.
Was that the one that Mark Jones spoke on? So, spoke that they had a solution, but as their study shows, it's not necessarily as cut dry or as easy as he had hoped. Let's call the vote. All in favor of resolution R 12721, resolution to accept the change order to the Curry Court and Old Indian Trail study, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. Motion carries 3-2. Or no, yeah. 3-2. All right. Next, resolution R 13921, resolution approving the assignment and assumption of the agreement for subdivision improvements in Outlot 15 of 9 Springs. And this, I understand, a separate developer has purchased this and will assume the subdivision agreement.
Correct.
Okay. My only concern is at a point where there's a clear handoff. You know, are they gonna say, well, the guys before us should have done that part, we're not paying for it, or hop in.
Yeah, I can answer that. So, North Point Development.
Come to the-
Can we have you come on
Yeah.
up here?
Come on up, come on
Yeah.
up. Come on
Introduce
up, Sean.
yourself.
I'm sorry, Sean.
Yeah, no, that's right. Good evening. My name is Sean O'Brien with North Point Development. We are the party that the agreement's being transferred to. And
Limerick?
yeah, the Limerick. So the ownership would be the Limerick Fitchburg LLC, and that's owned by North Point Development in a tax credit investor, but we won't get too much into the details. But we worked with city staff to get the subdivision agreement in place. Are fully aware of all the requirements, and would have rather have been a party to the agreement from the get-go. But one of the ways that we were able to move forward with the development and get permits, because what had happened was we needed to get this agreement in place so we could get permits. So we needed the permits so we could close on the financing, was to have the original owner and the seller of the land to enter into this agreement, knowing that we'd be making this transfer in the future after we had purchased the property. And so part of that was the financial consideration for the improvements, and we escrowed, North Point Development escrowed the funds for that at the time instead of a letter of credit. And so we're well aware of the requirements and take on the responsibility of those improvements, and it's our funds that are currently sitting with the city.
Okay. You have the escrow right now. Okay. Questions for Sean? For those of you, this is the property, Lacey, kind of the corner, oops. Lacey Road turns the corner by the roundabout there.
But I would think that we haven't even put the resolution on.
Oh, I'm sorry. So,
We'll get too far.
all right, so, resolution R 13921, approving assignment and assumption of agreement for subdivision improvements in Outlot 15 of 9 Springs. Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve resolution R-139-21.
Sorry, Bill. Moved by Wilborn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, Sean. So you know where I'm coming from. I've seen these things before where, all right, well, that's not our deal.
Yeah.
Someone else is supposed to take care of that. That's what I'm always on the lookout for, Sean. Bill, you're satisfied? They understand? Okay. All right. So any other questions for Sean? He'll be back. Probably have some more for him here later in the agenda. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Anyone have any questions? We'll call the vote. All in favor of resolution R 139/21, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carry, opposed, motion carries. Next, we have resolution R 11921, approving a design contract with K&L Engineering, design of the Seminole Highway and Lacey Road intersections. Kim, are you going to recuse yourself?
Yes, I am recusing
Okay.
myself.
And,
Do I physically need to leave, or can I just sit here and?
I think I need you to leave.
Okay,
I
that's fine.
believe
Yeah,
that.
by rule,
think-
you have
Okay.
to be.
And,
Dave's our parliamentarian, we can ask him. He said you're our parliamentarian tonight, so you can ask.
Andrew, you wanna present?
walking out, then I'll know
I don't know if I can.
There's a spot that just opened up for you.
So, do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Moved by Gronetsky, second by Wheeler. All right, I'll open up to Well, I guess I'll just state, looks like there's three options that we're considering there, to keep the intersection with stop signs, stoplights, or roundabout, and involved with that is the stormwater. Am I correct there, Andrew?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. So if you, in the report, it indicates the queue now, at the peak times is about 17 seconds. And if we left it the same, it would grow to about a little less than half a minute with the stop signs, and that's at peak. The roundabout improved things, but it did not cut the queue appreciably during peak. Was that right, Andrew?
So yeah, for southbound, we would have still 130. So I'm looking at future volumes.
Yep.
Yeah, 130 feet queue for southbound versus an always stop, which would be 140. So slight reduction, but yeah, queuing on the southbound leg would still remain similar.
So it was, I would tell the board, it was a bit of an eye-opener for me. I thought what we had was totally inadequate, and when I look at it, I'm like, well, maybe it's not that bad, but I always want to have an eye on the future capacity. No one likes waiting in a long line. It costs resources and time, but it also costs us a lot of money to put in a roundabout. The other thing I'd like to keep in mind, and this isn't a given, but if a sports facility goes in there, potentially on weekends or at times, there could be big volumes coming out of there that cause a queue. Those are a little more of a special event, and if they were larger, they might be asked to contract with the police department, for traffic control in that situation. But I'll open up to the board now here, and give you my take on what we see here.
So what are we really recommending that we, to the city?
Well,
here?
the main is the design contract with K&L, okay?
Right.
And so let's start with that issue.
So
Go
is the
ahead.
design contract, and we asking them to look at all three alternatives, is that what we're just?
No, so I guess the direction we're trying to get is if we can select a preferred alternative, embed that in the resolution.
Okay.
Then we can
Yeah.
we have that baked in, basically
Gotcha.
optional services in the contract if we need the signal, for example. But yeah, so it's kind of a three-parter, first being approving the design contract, second being the control, and third, kind of an add-on service of getting that kind of conceptual design of the infiltration.
Gotcha.
So for the people watching, the public, this was not bid. So
Yeah.
go over the reasons why this was sole sourced, because it's an issue that we're cognizant of, and I need to have a very strong agenda for not bidding a project.
Right. And so I guess the real justification here is that the design team is currently working on the West Lacey project. They have a good deal of the survey done for this intersection. They did a 2020 report on basically all this traffic, the forecasting future growth. So they have really pretty good knowledge, and with a lot of the stormwater facilities being designed kind of in tandem, there's some economies of scale there. So I think it's really just kind of making an extension of the West Lacey project in its sense to include the same design team.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate on that one.
Yep.
So we hired K&L to do the consulting on that part, and that means that the data that's there is ours.
Yep.
So if we were just looking at this intersection improvement, the data is still ours. At that point, it really shouldn't matter who the vendor coming in to do the intersection control is.
Yep.
They should be able to have the same information that we have, the same information that K&L would have.
Right.
Okay.
It's nice to have them kind of be a part of the project team, that they have that background as well. We don't have to get them up to speed, but you're right, we could certainly transfer all that data to a new consultant.
So can you, Bill and Andrew, are we good and good value for what the proposing on this contract, you know. Competitive, are we getting good competitive value is the point blank question I'll ask you, because that's, comes down to, you know, if I'm questioned by my constituents or some state agency that audits this and say, yes. So, you feel that, what's it based on, I guess?
Yep.
Bill, did you do an engineer's estimate before? Or is it based, you know, your rough project cost, based on the percentage of, you know, that engineering would be a certain percentage of that? How do you, when you tell me it's a good value, I believe you, but give me a metric here, or give me.
In, I thought it was the hourly proposal. It's not in here, but we took a look at, you know, all of the tasks that were proposed to take the design from beginning to end. And we looked at the different tasks that were in there and the hours that it would take to do those. And because KL already had a lot of the background information put together, the studies and everything, they wouldn't have to repeat themselves and relearn everything. So there's that period of time that, you know, the number of hours that engineers would need to get back up to speed and get everything going again for the design. We feel that we've probably saved 2 to 3% of a design contract over the construction, which is on a $2 million contract of construction is $60,000.
No, I'm not being a son of a bitch here. I have to, you know, it's my duty to ask these questions. You know.
And who was the consultant on the roundabout of Fitrona and Nesbit?
That was AECOM.
Okay.
And we looked at that price and kind of added on some stormwater facilities for this, and it seemed in line with
Okay.
kind of an inflation rate over
Okay.
since 2018.
Okay, so you had a valid point of comparison. Is K&L subcontracting some stormwater work here?
Looks like it, but
Yep, with Mars and EOR, similar to the West Lacy
Okay.
project.
So,
Yeah, Mars EOR did the North Stoner Prairie neighborhood plan and all the stormwater there. So they're very familiar with everything that needs to go into this area for stormwater.
that's included in their bid, that subcontracting part, or is that gonna be an extra?
That's all included.
So that cost will vary depending on the option you select, am I correct?
It does, yeah. So that does include the optional add-on task for the trucks.
Okay. So I would add, you know, when we're having meetings on, you know, the Lacey Road to Seminole, Fitch, Rona, overwhelming sentiment from most of the people there was, you know, they would like a roundabout there, but it is substantially more money than, isn't it? If I had the right page here, on what page is that on, where you have the cost comparison?
But traffic,
My text too small, can't read. What page do you show there, Dave?
Page 8 and 47 on that part.
Okay.
Page 8 and 32.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm So in the world where money is no object, I would say the roundabout that we have at Nesbit and Fitch-Rona Road is excellent. You know, as far as moving traffic, people don't have to stop. I can go through it on my bike, you know, a couple times a week. It moves traffic through there, you know, very, very nicely. And I suspect this would do the same thing, but you know, considerably higher cost.
Why is the cost so much higher in this one?
And compared to
To,
Nesbit? Yes, I mean, certainly, I think we're going back a little bit further in terms of roadway reconstruction. So I can kind of have a quick exhibit. Hopefully you guys can see So like the red lines are, you know, the extent of the project, how far we're going back. I do want to note that there are some differences, kind of in the functional area around the versus traffic signal, and so just from that area. And so, you know, those aren't, so basically, long story is that we're going to resurface these roads anyway, further north and further east. So there's a little bit of a cost baked into that, that we're saving ourselves from that. It's very small, but I just want to kind of note it of basically the roundabout's smaller in footprint that way. So it works out to be about $250K comparatively. But yeah, we looked through, I mean, basically there's some updated costs. There's a lot of unknowns kind of through COVID and with some of the supply chains getting messed up, that have been increasing costs for some things like signal equipment. Has been decreasing costs, at least temporarily, for some other things in terms of getting bid prices for asphalt and that sort of stuff. So I would say certainly inflation, certainly COVID, and then we do have stormwater facilities here where we did not have any of that for Nesbit. And then we also have the trail connection and kind of the complication there with that. So I'd say that's by and large kind of most of the costs. And we also did, similar to the design, on the design side, we kind of compared that final cost. I don't have it in front of me, but it seemed logical once you add in those kind of additional elements that we would have this additional cost.
And are we saying then option 3, which is leaving it as a 4-way, is essentially free, or was there a cost for that component broken out separate from?
Yeah, so that would be something like $2.5 million, similar to what the roundabout would be.
Okay.
Because again, we're reconstructing the roadway,
Yeah,
similar
okay.
to what the signal configuration would look like, and you're saving basically $250,000 to $300,000 in just the signal infrastructure.
Okay, so this intersection is going to cost us 2.5,
Yep.
upwards of $3 million,
Right.
any which way we go.
Yeah, up to that, under our current
Okay.
estimate.
Okay, all right. I just didn't see option 3 listed as a cost.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, the delta there is about $250,000.
Okay.
Just from tracking
All right.
signal.
Is any of this in the TID? Is this outside?
Yes,
the
this
TID?
is in the TID. I think this is 100%
Hopefully
funded.
It's in the TIF number 9, I think.
Okay. So then the question is, you know, if the intersection is the base, if doing nothing is the baseline at what, 2.5 million, or, you know, a little over 2 million is the delta between that to a roundabout versus the delta to that for an intersection worth the additional spend?
Well, you know, it's a lot of money, I'm not gonna, but if I look crystal ball into the future, don't you think the roundabout would be the most efficient, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Most, you know, the majority of the time I work just down the road from that, and at rush hour, there's a lot of cars, but majority of the time, you know, you're just breezing through there.
Yeah.
So when Sub-Zero lets out, it'll be crowded at 5 o'clock and at 7 to 8. You know, move things along.
It's gonna get jammed up at school time, at
Yeah.
8 o'clock when everyone's trying to get to the schools, at 3 o'clock, 2:30 when Sub-Zero lets out, 3:30 when school's let out. And then it's gonna be kind of probably clear sailing for the rest of the time, cause there's, you know, not a lot of businesses that let out at 5, 6 o'clock and everyone's rushing home.
Andrew, question for you. The complexity, you know, with the trail, you know, extending across there, you're gonna have that regardless if you do a roundabout or a 4-way stop, aren't you? Just where that trail physically is versus the intersection, it'll be essentially be the same issue for both options?
Yeah, so I would say it's an awkward distance, and unfortunately we can't move the track closer to the intersection. And so, yeah, kind of, it's like 200 feet. So we'd probably have queuing, you know, if you look at the eastbound queues, comparatively, pull it up in 2040. Basically, we're looking at, you know, with the roundabout, you have 45 feet. With the all-way stop, you have 115. you probably wouldn't get back into that trail
Okay.
crossing, but at some point you could. That would be the real differential. I would say with the traffic signal, you're certainly gonna have, you know, that stale green for westbound and eastbound vehicles that you're gonna see increased speeding on the
Yeah,
trail.
yeah, you're right, they'd be flying through fast. Yes, Jim?
So is there any information that, with the positioning of that bike trail, that a roundabout would be less safe? I think that's gonna come up.
Sure,
Someone's
sure.
gonna ask that question. Or about bikes just going through the roundabout.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, I would say generally, you know, bikes, some out of direction traffic, like we have at most of the roundabouts, you know, they have to go up on the kind of the multi-use path and come back around. That being said, you know, certainly there's some benefits there versus a signal, just from slower speed perspective. On the signal side, you could, I don't know if
Put that flasher on there, you know, on the bike trail.
Yeah, so an RFB, a rapid rectangular flashing beacon, it could be an option in both of these scenarios. So, you know, I basically say that the trail crossing, I think we could put in a median there that would make it a two-stage crossing in
Okay.
both options. I don't see a whole lot of issues. I'll note there's a small, very small possibility that a rail comes back to this trail corridor. In that case, a roundabout wouldn't be a good option, but I know that is a very small possibility.
And there's no data that we have anyway from any of the roundabouts that there's been bike car crashes or anything.
I would say, yeah, anecdotally, I've gotten complaints about near misses, but that happens at most intersections, so.
I go through roundabouts all the time on my bicycle.
It's almost
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'll say certainly it would lower the kind of right angle crash rate, and that's, and this intersection doesn't have a high crash rate to begin with, so it's not a huge concern, but it could have an elevated crash rate with the signal.
just being prepared.
Right. So if we go round table, I'm originally in favor of the roundabout. Jim, what's your sense? What do
Oh,
you- Michael? Roundabout. Yeah, okay, all right.
But I don't like the idea that we're not putting these out for bids with another company. I don't like that idea.
Well, I guess what I wanna understand, but we will be saving money?
We don't know.
Right, we don't.
That's the purpose of the bidding process is we get the bids, and I mean and this isn't anything against K&L, they do a fantastic job. It's just procedurally this is very rare that we've done no bid contract for something this size.
I just thought I heard that it could be a 2% savings and, or no?
Yeah.
That's
It
what's-
could be a 2% savings, we just don't know. Okay. 60.
So then hearing this, I was like, we favor of resolution R 119-21 with the option for the roundabout is what we would be voting for. Call the vote, all in favor of resolution R 119-21.
Was there a third item, Andrew,
Oh,
that we were going to be
yeah.
addressing as part of this?
There
I'm
is-
sorry.
So,
I'm sorry.
yes, there's kind of optional task in the resolution of the last whereas.
I'm sorry, Andrew.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, it's a long contract. Okay. Oops, sorry. So that, the third, sorry, so it's just the conceptual design of the, stormwater facilities associated, with kind of regional stormwater. And so there's a follow-up to the earlier study, that Strain did, basically to come up with options. And so this would be, basically just, I think it's a $30K add-on to this project, just to do a conceptual design of what that infiltration basin would look like. As part of our project, it's adjacent to it, and it can be kind of modeled as all part of one system.
So is that the part they would be subcontracting out?
So that would also be going to Mars UR as part of the project. And that would be funded through kind of the Lacey Regional Stormwater.
So right now, Andrew, you know, we have stormwater there and it's flowing, kind of flows four directions, but, are we adding substantial pavement, you know, I think putting in a fair amount of, you know, the roundabout itself, you know, will be something that can absorb water, certain seasons, but are we contributing, is this, I don't see it as being a big adder to the stormwater, I guess, is what
Yeah, so this is, well, I'll say, there's kind of two components. There's the project, kind of stormwater itself that we are assuming that we'll need a wet pond for some rate control. This is a separate kind of add-on that basically it's directly adjacent to this project area, but at more of a regional scale. So if you're familiar with the Sub-Zero, Stoner Prairie,
Yep.
yeah, all that. So this is now a follow-up to that study, basically looking at the preferred option in a little bit more depth. And so that's just an add-on to this.
Oh yeah, I thought
so-
we beat that horse to death.
And why is that part of this?
Because it's directly adjacent, and it basically could be connected to these, to this wet pond. And so-
So, the amendment, I'm just trying to make sure I understand logistically what the amendment or what the resolution is doing. It's sole sourcing the consulting to K&L with the recommendation of a roundabout and then doing an optional stormwater study that's not included in the services that we would be approving for K&L.
That's all baked in right now.
Okay.
In the contract. So, yeah, I'll say that, and just a further clarification on that second statement, that first, be it further resolved, right now it just says staff recommended intersection control, it's kind of agnostic, so if you guys want to prefer a particular one, you can amend it to say that, like TTC, for example, get that on. So that's that, but yeah, as far as, it just was, again, a kind of economies of scale of we're in the area, we're doing storm water work, it makes sense to follow up and kind of get this going faster. And so it was just work that kind of remained after the initial stormwater study.
You're telling me it has to be, it needs to be done.
Before design could
Okay, it
commence,
needs to be
basically.
done.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. It would cost us more if we didn't do it, at this time. Would that be correct?
I think it's more or less,
Needed.
we need to do it, we need to get it in the right spot.
Okay.
And pre-planning for the future is the best way to get this done.
That's good. Got to roundabout.
So there's three, as Michael was alluding, there's three, sole sourcing, the design for the intersection, which we prefer, and then this option for the stormwater, this stormwater finalized study. Will this be the end of it here?
From my understanding,
Yeah.
it's a concept design, so basically before you would go to an actual design for this infiltration basin. So it's not the last step in the design process, but it's
So this is the promise ring, not the engagement ring, the promise ring.
All right.
Okay, let me go back to Mr. Graminski, that's what he's really thinking, and this whole issue about the sole source. What's the harm if we put it up for bid? Let me ask the question that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. It would basically, some of the economies of scale and efficiencies we're gaining right now is that we're keeping it on track with the West Lacey project. And so both of those could basically be designed jointly and then kind of go out to bid collectively. So that was kind of what we were hoping for, both from a scheduling and from a consolidation standpoint. If we go out for bid, that would just delay it slightly, but then you would know what bid pricing you're going to get back. And so that would probably be a month and a half to 2 months for us to get that ready and get it.
Well, it just doesn't look good that we don't put it out for bids, regardless of how you look at it.
So did you have a, bid document that went to K&L, or was it kind of a collaborative? This, working on, well, this is what we think the design should be. That, do you have a bid ready that you can, that you could send out, I guess is the question.
We have some information, we don't have a full bid put together. We basically have some scope material.
How much time and money would it cost to get that ready?
Money, I mean, that would just be staff time, but yeah, I think.
If you're telling me 30,000, well, then that ain't up.
But yeah, it would probably be something like 2 months. It's just, at this point, it's just kind of an efficiency of trying to make sure these two go at the same time, but it could be done, certainly.
I'm leaning towards, the single bid, but probably the last one that I want to see.
And these are just design,
Yeah.
design consulting. We're not,
Construction will be big.
construction is completely separate. That's where you're gonna get your big nut.
Yep. It's definitely larger.
All right. Any other questions then? Ready to vote? Okay. So what we're voting on is resolution R 11921 with 3 components. One, sole sourcing the K&L engineering. Second, recommendation for a roundabout, and third, the option for the final regional stormwater study, which was approximately 30,000. Is that what you?
That's.
Okay. All right.
So
And this still has to go to council?
Yeah. Yes.
before we do this, are we are we amending the resolution to include those things and then voting on the singular resolution?
Yes, that would be the recommended.
Okay, thank you.
process.
All right. Thank you.
So I would move to amend, oh boy, what resolution number was this?
R
119.
11921.
Yeah.
That one?
Yes.
To recommend, design services for or design consultation for a roundabout, including the additional water study.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment carries. Now back to the original resolution, amended resolution R 119-21. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, Jim abstains. All right, motion carries. Let Kim know she can come back in. Thank you for your thoughtful discussion on that. Appreciate it.
And while we're waiting, let's not make that a habit of
What?
approving sole sourcing.
I still gotta wrap my head around it.
That was karma underneath. That's
It'll come before council, so.
All right. Next, we're on the agenda item Delta here, I believe. Resolution R 14121, a resolution to reject the bid for the fabrication and installation of exterior wayfinding signage project. Do we have a motion to approve?
motion to approve.
Moved by Kravitsky,
I'll second.
second by Lobdell. We found our spec might have been a little too vague to get a good bid. Would that be accurate, Bill, or?
That's correct.
Okay. So staff is recommending we reject this. We'll revise spec and we'll try this again. Any other questions? Anyone have questions on this? Okay. All right. Call the vote. All in favor of resolution R 141-21 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, resolution R 143-21, a resolution approving cost-sharing agreement for chip sealing Post Road and Sain Road between City of Madison and the City of Fitchburg. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Lobdell. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Wheeler. This one, there's a certain amount of road in there, and Madison will be doing the chip sealing, and then we'll be reimbursing them for our portion. Is that correct, Bill?
That's correct.
Okay. And I assume they, similar rates or whatever than what we got through Fire Asphalt?
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, their prices were a little bit better than ours.
And a little bigger project, a little
They
bigger,
had a $6 million.
little bigger
chip.
contract.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I would just add, I'm very pleased with that contractor, how they've been performing in Fitchburg. You know, they get the equipment lined up, they get the work done promptly, and at least in my neighborhood, the product seems a good result.
And just to make sure, we're doing this because this is something that our staff has analyzed and said that needs to be done. We're not just doing this because Madison's doing it, so we're just gonna piggyback on what they're doing.
Correct. We were in the area doing work as well, and they took the lead on this project. Sometimes we take the lead, and so it's
Win-win. Okay. Then we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 143-21, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, Resolution R 89-20, adopting Seminole Highway Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Connection Charge Report. This was postponed from April meeting. This work was started in 2017. Does that sound right?
yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, we have this, finally got this to a point where our calculations were done, our costs were known, and we're ready to assess for these charges. Anything else to add on that, Bill?
Yeah, we need to amend the resolution
Okay.
to include a statement that indicates that the charges will be indexed according to the special charges policy.
I didn't hear that. What'd you say, Bill? I didn't catch it. Sorry.
The charges will be indexed according to the special charges policy resolution.
Thanks.
Allocation of charges for interceptors and stormwater facilities.
We'll get you the words.
And what does that mean? Come on. What does that mean? Why is that important?
So,
Come on.
Yes.
Slid that one right in.
so in our assessment policy, it says that we index them. It's just like an interest rate, except we use MMSD does it the same way for their charges that they charge to all properties, where they base it on construction costs for that year. And so each year there's an index rate that's set up based on the construction cost, and then it usually increases each year. So like in 11-12, we saw that it stayed fairly flat because cost for construction didn't go up much. But now we'll probably see it climb a little bit more because construction costs have been climbing in the last few years. So it basically just takes the cost today and then makes it and adjusts it so it's more the cost for each year as when you're paying it. So it's like an interest rate, if you will.
Okay.
All right, would someone like to make that motion to amend?
Also move resolution number R-89-20
As amended.
as
So the amendment is charges will be indexed to the special assessment.
She's got a whole bunch of words.
Okay.
Yeah, allocation of charges for interceptors and stormwater facilities to the policy floor.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I'll second that if we.
Second by Woodward, second by,
So this work has already been done, right? And now you're just doing the connection charges, which is that different than the assessment for the actual construction?
It would be different than an assessment. So this is the interceptor, we do charges. So anytime somebody
Right, okay.
comes in to develop, they would pay charges, per lot or by area in this case, for the developable land they would have within their development. If we were to do, let's say we run sanitary sewer in front of existing properties that are not developing, they would be charged a cost as well for, they pay their assessment for the sewer that was run in front of their property, but then they would pay their share of the cost of the interceptor that went in. So there'd be a connection charge for the interceptor as well.
And refresh my memory, because it's been a while, what areas are going to be serviced by this interceptor?
So primarily it's between Marketplace, so it's between Marketplace and Lacey Road. There are some areas to the west,
Okay.
near the Richardson property, that will be picked up by this interceptor as well when they develop.
So we're thinking that this is mostly gonna be commercial?
A good portion of it, but Stoner Prairie is also part of that, and some of Stoner Prairie, the southern end, and then all of Crescent Crossing is in this
Page 99
interceptor.
has a map.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you,
if
Mhm.
you
thank
wanna
you, thank you,
scroll
thank
down
you.
to there.
Alright,
99 in the packet, Kim?
Yeah, 99 in the packet is where
Okay.
there's the map.
okay,
Just about there.
I remember seeing that, but I just couldn't.
So, Tracy, to put you on the spot, approximately how many acres are included in this?
I did 2 of them. I think this one was 17 million areas. That's square feet, right?
Yeah.
17 million square feet.
Divide by 56,230.
43,560.
Square feet in an acre.
43,560.
Oh, 43, I'm sorry. Can't remember my surveying days.
Come on.
We got two,
Bill's calculating it.
3 maps.
392 acres.
How much? 390?
392 acres.
Okay.
It seems like a lot. I don't think it can be that much.
How much?
I mean,
That,
it's a good jump.
Well,
over.
section,
It's-
section 640, and I'm looking,
Yeah, but all,
There's
Yeah,
3
well,
maps
it
there,
could
so
be.
which one are we going on?
I think that looks,
up the section's 36.
Real big one.
section, one section is one section would be 640 acres.
Could be.
And I think, it looks like I see about 440s, you know,
Yeah,
out there.
yes.
Looks in the ballpark.
And what does this do for the area south of Lacey?
Thank you
Does
for
this
having me.
put this in the, does this put this in the urban service area? Does it get a step closer?
no, it just, when they do come into the urban service area
Okay.
and sewer is
Okay.
extended, then they'll have to pay their portion of the interceptor
Gotcha.
costs.
Okay.
So it would have to be, it'll have to be extended down there for them to connect it.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the part in the green, that's the potential with,
Potential,
Potential,
yes.
okay.
Mhm. I envision that those lines will change quite a bit. When I looked at the boundaries of it and the elevations, that it'll probably shift a little more to the west when I looked at it. But that's what's been defined for years.
And this is essentially, based on the depth of the interceptor, this is the gravity feed that
Yes.
could
Mhm.
be fed by this. Topography determines this.
But again, there's a lot of holes in the southern portion that's not in this area that we're charging today, that won't be. So there's some areas in there, but there's a lot of areas within there that are lower.
And are these people all aware of this?
All the developers are aware. Yep, it's in their developers agreements that they have to pay it within 30 days of invoice.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? So we have a amended resolution,
Well, if you look on page 101, shows the potential ultimate service area, so that makes more sense to me.
go one more page, Kim.
so does that have the potential to change to urban service area where we are now, where it is now?
It's designed to pick up more land, if that's what you're asking, but you have to do an amendment to
I
adjust
assume
the
you
urban
designed it
service area.
for Future.
Yes, So yeah, we looked at the area of the future and the area that we're gonna serve, the ultimate, or the initial area and the ultimate area when we sized the interceptor initially before we put it in.
How big is that interceptor, Tracy?
It's 18-inch.
Any other questions?
Nope.
So we have an amended resolution in front of us. So we'll call the vote. All in favor of amended resolution R 89-20, adopting Seminole Highway Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Collection Charge Report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next, we have resolution R 150-21, approving purchase of water meters with Midwest Meter Incorporated. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Wheeler, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, so this is a casualty of COVID, that we are not able to get our regular meter and radio heads. And so we bought Badger meters from when we started our utility until not too long ago. We were still buying Badger, so. Is there any Will there be any market for these when we change them out?
We're gonna keep them in place.
We'll keep them in, so you can connect the existing, the electronics to them?
Yep.
Okay.
Is the price relatively similar to what we were paying for the other ones?
We pay $125 per meter, so that there's a $50 increase.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. They're more accurate, they're better made and they're a more accurate meter.
Okay.
Any
So
other
it's a good
questions?
thing you're keeping them in place.
Oh, no, these more expensive ones are,
Okay.
yeah. Mhm. But our meters that we have today are very accurate, more than what we need. Mhm.
And this
Okay.
is pretty much just to take you through the end of the year? Is that what you're estimating at this
And,
point?
and into some of next year, in case it lasts longer than what they anticipated.
Okay. So
in the-
you put
yep.
a little bit of slack in there.
Mm-hmm. Building inspection gave us an estimate to help us.
So there's a potential if the supply chain doesn't improve, we could have another similar emergency resolution.
And these are for new homes or new connections?
New homes, yep. And if we purchase them, then we don't have to change them out. It's the idea we put them in, leave them in, and then we won't have to go through the hassle of pulling them out and putting, a new meter in the future.
Any other questions?
Just because I've already got my karma check for tonight, so am I to understand that since these are more accurate, that the stormwater the usage in the first chart may not necessarily be down to the specific gallon?
Oh, these will be down to the gallon, just like the iPearls. I mean, the accuracy is so great on both of them
Okay.
that the difference is not gonna affect what we're gonna collect
So
by
I should not be
more than a
fighting
few
that water.
dollars, so,
Splitting hairs.
yes. Uh-huh.
Very good, thank you.
Call the vote, all in favor of resolution R, 151-21,
No, it's one
no,
fifty.
I'm saying 150-21, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, resolution R 151-21, adopting Terra Vesta sanitary facilities connection charge report. I think all of you are aware, maybe not Jim, but I browbeat Dave and Michael quite a bit about not wanting a lift station, but we have one due to, it was the lowest cost option to put this in. And I guess I'll stop talking there. What would you like to add here?
We need the same language for the amendment of the resolution for the
Okay, so we need
index.
need this amended the same way. So this would be amended. Tracy, what were the words again?
I believe it's allocation of charges for interceptor and stormwater facilities, the policy of.
I missed you there. So the amendment
Pa-
would be,
Yeah, to index the charges annually per the policy for allocation of interceptor and stormwater facility charges.
okay.
I have a question for you. Don't we have to bring up the original resolution first and then bring the second one in?
I think we
Because we didn't bring it in.
I'm sure we did.
Did you? I don't
Did
recall.
we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Konecki, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Lava, I'm sorry.
Dave Oben would like to amend.
I'm dehydrated from the bicycle. I'm sorry. Okay. So we have a amended resolution for us. Questions on the Terra Vesta sanitary facilities connection charge report?
See all those numbers in there, all 300 of them?
Yeah?
Tracy had to go through each person and find the areas, and make sure that they were right. And it took a lot to get, this done. So it's a big accomplishment. I think she feels really relieved, and it's just a reflection on, the detail that we have to put into these developments to make sure everything is right.
Yep. Consistency and accuracy are a big, very big deal to me.
Excel is our friend.
Yes. All right, any other questions? All right, then we'll call the vote on the amended resolution R 151-21. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, Resolution R 137-21, a resolution accepting subdivision improvements in the plat of First Addition to Terra Vesa.
And you're looking at postponing this one?
Yes.
Okay. So do we have a motion to defer this?
So moved.
Moved by Matsky.
Motion to defer.
Motion to defer. Do we have a
Second.
second? Okay. All in favor of the motion to defer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. We are deferred.
Can I ask a question? Is there problems with some of the
Oh,
things
why
that
are we
that's why
deferred?
you're sort of waiting, or?
And if yours.
Yeah, we don't have the lien waivers. They haven't paid the invoices as of today, and they're still working on the restoration of the park.
Approximate date for reconsideration? When?
Next Monday?
Okay.
Next Monday.
Hopefully.
All right. All right, Sean, so here we go. Last one here, Resolution R 145-21, approving a revocable permit and license agreement in the City of Fitchburg and the Limerick Fitchburg LLC. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Abdel, do we have a second?
No, second.
Second by Wheeler. So, Sean, you want to come up here? This property, due to its geography or topology and what's going in there, developer has requested access across some city-owned property to allow the facilitation of the construction of this 100-unit senior housing and 27-unit townhouse, the intersection of Lacey near the roundabout. And Limerick has worked with the city pretty diligently the city has put a lot of stipulations on to make sure that property is not damaged, that we have the proper escrow, and so that is what this is about. Bill, would you want to comment any more on this? I know you've worked pretty hard to get this in place and make sure the city is covered, for our property that's not damaged.
Yeah, it was a pretty collaborative effort between the developer and the city attorney and planning and engineering to all come together with an agreement that would allow access around the backside of the lot for them to access. And then we put together the agreement for restoration and maintenance long-term for that area once it's disturbed, and that's essentially what the agreement is for, along with the escrow, as you had mentioned, plus insurance requirements and things like that.
So, Sean, you're going behind that little kettle there, is how you're coming in to do the construction.
Yeah, there's three areas. On the east property line, we're requesting about 7 feet so we can build a road that would allow us to travel essentially around the entire property. But then there's two other areas due to the slope where we're going to have some really tall retaining walls that we would need to build and then get around. And then we would be restoring and putting some additional trees and shrubs into those areas. I think will make improvements to what's currently on city property right now.
I did tour the site.
You did. I walked.
Walked it.
I rode around it too. I would say, if you look, we'll have substantial property taxes paid on this lot versus what is being paid now. I would not. I hope it doesn't come up very often. This type of thing. It takes a lot of city time, takes a lot of developers' time to get it through. So, Fitchburg's a place where we willing to consider things. It's a little bit of a one-off, but like I say, I've toured it. It looks like a good project.
It was gonna be pretty much senior housing.
Senior 27 townhouses.
Yeah, it's a majority senior. 100 of the units would be senior affordable housing, and then there's 27 three-bedroom townhomes as well. That'll be general occupancy.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And I just want to say, I'm very, very appreciative of staff taking the time to work with us. It was a lot of effort on their part, and it is very much appreciated. We're trying to again, make it a situation where we're leaving something nicer, and without the city's assistance here, we'd be in a pickle. So it's very much appreciated.
Anyone else have questions for Sean or Bill? Call the vote. All in favor of resolution R 145-21, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Announcement, the next Board of Public Works meeting will be next Monday, August 2nd at, I believe that will be at 5:30. Does that sound right?
Correct.
5:30, okay.
I will not be here. I think I sent both Bill
Yep.
and Dave an email.
Thank you, Kim. I will be here. Michael,
I'll be joining remotely.
okay. Jim and Dave, you're.
I'll be here.
Sounds good. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.
Aye.